1 year on since Japan's tsunami, and dozens of shattered communities have to decide whether they rebuild near the coast or move to higher ground. With nearly 400,000 homes and buildings destroyed, just clearing the estimated 25 million tonnes of debris will take years. Last night, the ABC's North Asia correspondent Mark Willesee began his journey along Japan's once scenic Route 45. Tonight he travels further north to the tsunami-hit town of Otsuchi and into the nuclear wastelands of Fukushima.
Like carnivores ripping at a carcass, the bulldozers are relentlessly chewing their way through what remains of Otsuchi. This town was all but wiped out by waves 4 stories high. Lateline was here last year, just after the tsunami struck. 12 months on, it's still a wasteland. Here in Otsuchi, it's like the disaster of a year ago is frozen in time. Behind me, the community centre. Its clock stopped the moment the magnitude 9 earthquake finished rumbling. And just a block away, another clock on the council building. It stopped the moment the 4-storey high tsunami slammed into this town. On March the 11th, Tatsu Fujieda and her husband Yoshio watched as their home was crushed by the tsunami. A year on, they've come back to search for a trace of their old lives.
At first, I didn't want to come here. I didn't want to see what remained of our house. I've come back a few times now and I've given up. I feel it's hopeless.
I met the Fujiedas last year as they picked through the rubble, not knowing what they would do or where they would go. Like many evacuees, the Fujiedas are still in a state of limbo because they don't know if they'll ever be allowed to return to Otsuchi. We just stare at each other every day, says Mr. Fujieda with a resigned laugh. I'm given a tour of the devastation by Otsuchi Mayor Yutaka Ikarigawa. He's the leader of a town that barely exists. 99% of the buildings here in the centre of the community were torn apart by the 4-storey high tsunami. The mayor's job now is to resurrect Otsuchi.
The regional government is telling us to build a seawall 5 stories high, but if we get a tsunami like March 11, it could spill over it. We will build the wall, but we cannot rely on it.
Nearby, Mr. and Mrs. Fujieda have had a breakthrough. They've had a call telling them their car, which was washed away by the tsunami, has been found. There's not much left of their late model sedan, although Mr. Fujieda has managed to find his baseball glove in the boot. A frozen find he greets with his usual good humour. I'm going to give up now, he says. Otsuchi was by no stretch hit by the biggest waves on March 11. Further north along Route 45, I've come to Taro, where a tsunami measuring a staggering 38 metres high easily cleared the town's 10-metre high seawall. Lateline was here last year too, as people stood in shock, surrounded by the rubble of their homes. They were the lucky ones. 40% of the population died in the tsunami.
So this is your what's left of your house?
Last year, the mayor Masanori Yamamoto showed us what remained of his home. 12 months on, he lives in a tiny temporary house on the high ground, like the rest of his community.
Everybody, including me, wants to leave these temporary houses as soon as possible, but it's too dangerous to move back to Taro. We need to find somewhere nearby which will be safe for the community.
Not helping matters is the political bickering in Tokyo, which many mayors blame for holding up the reconstruction of their communities.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't frustrated. We just need to do our best. If I get bogged down in the politics, nothing will get done.
To tell the full story of March 11 last year, I have to leave Route 45 behind and head nearly 300 kilometres to the south into another wasteland. I am going into the Fukushima nuclear no-go zone. I need special permission, so taking me in is Police Inspector Teruyuki Yokoyama. This is his now abandoned hometown of Futaba, just a few kilometres from the melted nuclear reactors. Inspector Yokoyama was on duty the day the first reactor building exploded.
I thought it was thunder, but because it was so loud, I radioed in that I heard a shattering sound. Then I was told the nuclear plant had exploded, so I came here to the hospital to help evacuate people. It was total panic.
At the entrance to Futaba is a sign declaring nuclear power for a bright future. It's likely this town will have no future now because of the meltdowns.
I want to come back to live here as soon as I can because this is my hometown. But when I hear about the high radiation levels, I know it could take decades to return.
Not since the Second World War has Japan had to confront such terrible destruction. The tsunami left a deep scar down the entire east coast, as well as in the psyche of those who survived the waves. While the nuclear meltdowns have poisoned entire communities, forcing tens of thousands to flee their homes, perhaps forever. Mark Willesee, Lateline.